Spending less and getting more is a no-brainer. That's why serious landlords choose Inago. Forget the myth that free software means weak features. Inago delivers everything. Tenant screening, lease signing, rent collection, and more. For free. No fees, no contracts, just a full-featured, reliable platform trusted by thousands of landlords. Plus, their top-rated support team is always ready to help. Ready to streamline your property management and save money? Visit inago.com today. That's INNAGO.com/podcast.
Ooh. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Rentish podcast. My name is Zach, and I'm here with my co-host, Patrick.
What up?
We're your hosts for the Rentish podcast, which is a podcast that's kind of about rental properties, hosted by two guys that work in the real estate industry and kind of know what they're talking about.
But mostly don't.
Nailed the catchphrase this week, man. Nailed it. And we've been off the books for a while, too. That's impressive. Yeah, we don't. Mostly we don't, which is why I think you're going to have fun just listening to us talk and talk to experts and learn about everything that we're learning about, or just laugh along with us for the whole ride. We got a heck of a show, Patrick, today, but let me ask you first and foremost, before we kind of detail it out, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm on 2 cups of coffee.
Caffeine
need the
necessity
extra,
right now.
Extra boost.
Yeah. It's been a minute since we've been back here, so it's good to be back. But man, I'll tell you what, it's just one of those days where it's like I feel like a slug.
Yeah.
I'm just like moving at like snail's pace over here.
Yeah, same.
So we're gonna try and up the vibes. What are you gonna do? Like, we're doing exercises. Our producer was singing.
I'm doing jumping jacks as we're sitting down right now.
Jumping jacks, that's good. I was just vibing to our producer singing some Kendrick lines.
Yeah.
That's all it is, you know. What? Yeah, it's CPR. We learned that Not Like Us is CPR certified, so you can sing Not Like Us when you're giving someone
What's
CPR.
The beat? Like, 'cause it was Staying Alive before that. That was like kind of like the industry standard for CPR, right?
That was the song. Well, everyone knows that because of the Office bit, right?
Right. Well, that's how I know it, at least.
Well, our parents did that, but now we do Kendrick. So
okay.
That's how it's going to be. All right. We got a good show for you. We're going to talk about a new trend taking over rural America with property news. We're going to talk about a fun, famous property from the TV sitcom Friends. And then we're going to end it with some listener questions.
I'm excited. You said there was going to be experts at the beginning of the episode. Was that just a big fat lie? You guys are stuck with us.
I said there'd be experts
on the series.
Okay. But sometimes there might not be. So this might be an expertless episode.
Yeah, let's say.
This is all for the amateurs. This is the amateur hour right here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, maybe there will be experts. Who knows? We got experts.
Yeah, we got our producer Marseille in the room. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. Real news. I think that every segment title we have has the word real in it, because it's just like, what do we got? What are we going to come up with for real estate news podcast? Call it real news, real reels. It's like, oh man, we're super creative.
Are a bit stale.
Email questions at therentishpod.com. I always forget to intro that at the very, very beginning. So questions at therentishpod.com. If you guys want to be part of the show, which we do want you to be part of the show, we want you to email in. We want you to talk to us. We want to hear from you. If you're subscribed on your podcast service of choice like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, follow the Rentish podcast. We would love it if you would follow us and subscribe to us and maybe give us a review or a rating or something like that. I mean, hey, if the intro banter was any indication of what you're going to get on this episode, whew, that's a 5-star podcast if I ever hear something myself.
You usually forget to plug the
I know,
pod. Smash that subscribe button. You usually forget to do that.
Smash that. Yeah, well, we'll get a bit. I'm going to write that note for myself at the very beginning as a reminder to plug. And we're good. Okay, real news. Patrick, the trend taking over rural America, barndominiums.
I love that. I love that name. I wonder if it's about barns.
I wonder if it is. Well, did you read the article?
Oh, there's an article. No, I did not read the article.
You didn't even know if there was an article. Well, par for the course, but...
Whoops.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's our bit. You don't read the articles?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Right,
I'm here to educate you. So New housing trend is sweeping across rural America. Barndominiums. These hybrid structures blend the practicality of barns, so you were right on the money there, with the comfort of modern homes, offering a unique combination of rustic aesthetic and affordability. As housing prices continue to climb in urban areas, many families are turning to these unconventional builds for space, customization, and cost savings. There is a New York Times article that was linked out here by our producers, but because it has a paywall, I also did not read the article as well. So we got a first for everything here. We don't have the money to afford the paywall.
Raggy.
But it's okay because they did a great job of distilling the information into this lovely script that we're going to talk about.
Explore. Quick question.
Yeah,
so you said it blends the practicality of barns.
Okay,
what is practical about barns in terms of live? Like,
that's a good question.
You want to have a cow in your living room, but you can't do it in a normal house.
That's a good question because, practicality of a barn is that it's a barn. It's where you have your animals. Right?
Like, how is that practical? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. Well, okay, so some of the photos here. Before we get into, like, the details of the article here, I mean, we got a couple examples of photos. Maybe we'll put these in the description of the podcast. Who knows if we have that technology. But, there's one we got there where it's like,
Whoa.
The typical A-frame kind of cabin look, but it's like rustic wood paneling on the ceiling. You've got industrial looking fans and a lot of like rustic decor as well, like the wheat plant, which
that's I would live here.
Yeah, would you?
That is way cooler than my own apartment. So
it does look cool. Kind of looks like some wedding venues I've been to in the South, but it is what it is. You got big curtains there, old paintings. It's kind of got that like farmhouse aesthetic.
Yeah.
The next photo though, you want to scroll down just a smidge.
Okay.
It's like, I'm looking for a house. You can tell your realtor, like, I'm looking for a house. Give me, like, military compound chic.
Yeah.
It's like kind of the vibe here. It's like this big black mass in the middle of the desert. It's like, okay. But it almost looks like a plant, like an industrial plant.
Right,
does it
yeah.
not?
It doesn't look as homey as the inside photo looks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same barn, but
maybe
barndominium, sorry.
Barndominium, which have you heard the phrase before?
I know I haven't until
I've never heard
20
the
seconds
phrase
ago.
either. So I've never heard the phrase. I refer to these as easy millennial homes. It's been something that I've referred to these a lot as, like the millennium like storage container houses.
Yeah.
Like when I see these go up in like different areas of the city or in like neighborhoods where it's like they have these giant complexes or like these things that come up that they look like the aluminum looks like siding. They look like shipping containers.
They do.
The inside looks a lot more rustic and unique. That first photo that we saw, but like the outside just looking like a straight up like shipping container with like a tin roof.
Yeah.
That's sometimes for me what I think of. I'm thinking like, oh, it's like because those came to rise when people my age and my generation started like building these big like luxury condominiums or whatever, and they were like shipping container houses. That's always what I've called them.
Barndominium is a bit catchier. So.
It's a bit catchier, a little less like harsh.
Yeah, right.
So if your realtor's trying to sell you on a property, they're probably not going to call it shipping container house.
Or what's it called? A millennial
quick build or something like that. Yeah, it's like it's like we want to raise a house here in the 2.5 and 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Millennial quick job. Put it up there. All right. So I'm going to get into the article statistics here. Rise of the barndominiums and their appeal. So certainly they appeal to people. Maybe not to us. Well, you said that you would live there.
The inside, up until I saw the steel like storage container in the middle of the desert, But yeah, the inside looks really nice.
Inside looks nice. All right. What is a barndominium? Definition. A barndominium is a steel or wooden barn-like structure converted into a fully livable home. Originally popular among farmers. The trend has expanded to suburban and rural areas. So I guess literally it was just like, oh, well, we have this barn. Why not we just live in it as well? Design flexibility. They can feature open floor plans, vaulted ceilings, and large windows, blending modern design with rustic charm. And there's cost efficiency as well. Barndominiums often cost 30 to 50% less per square foot than traditional homes, largely due to simpler materials and quicker construction timelines. So there's a big positive.
Okay.
At least for me, that's a positive.
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering about that because, like, the open floor plans and the high ceilings, those are very desirable traits, in houses these days. So, like, are people building brand new barndominiums or are they repurposing existing barn structures?
I would have to think that would be something different. If you're repurposing a barn, like maybe you're like basically refinishing it or doing something else different to it. This seems like new construction.
Yeah.
Like Barndominium, as we're seeing it displayed here, is literally this new construction. I don't see anything about renovating actual like old.
Yeah.
Because so I grew up in Lebanon, Ohio, which is a small town north of Cincinnati. It's about 45 minutes north. Lots of farm houses there. And they were basically like old farm houses that they repurposed into actual living homes.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call that a barndominium. I think the condominium idiom adage there makes this seem a little bit more like modern construction.
Yeah, that makes
rather
sense.
than like a rustic farmhouse.
And so,
You know
like,
what I mean?
and the appeal is just how much cheaper it is given the materials at
Right.
play. Okay. Yeah,
So-
that makes sense.
Example, a 2,400 square foot barndominium can cost around $180,000 to $220,000, which is pretty good. I mean, a standard
really
home of the
good.
same size, like with traditional materials, is like close to $400K.
No, that's really so. Okay, got a follow up question for you, a barndominium expert.
I'm the expert.
Yeah, right. You did well. Actually, you didn't read the article, so never mind.
Remember, paywall, paywall, New York Times. Spending less and getting more is a no-brainer. That's why serious landlords choose Inago. With features like tenant screening, lease signing, and rent collection, Inago gives you everything you need for free. No fees, no contracts, just powerful property management made simple. Visit inago.com/podcast to sign up. That's INNAGO.com/podcast.
So, for example, like let's say that there's like a suburban neighborhood,
Right.
you know, and there's like an open lot in the neighborhood sandwiched between like two, you know, I don't want to call them normal houses and be offensive to barndominiums, but traditional houses.
I appreciate you being empathetic to the things
Yeah.
that have no feelings.
Would people like just build a barndominium in like an established neighborhood without other barndominiums present, or is a barndominium? Is there like a barndominium like cul-de-sac with just barndominiums?
Are you saying is there a barndominium?
Yeah, right. Yes.
like a multiplex of barndominiums,
Right.
like
where are these
we
popping
live in
up?
this neighborhood. We're a barndominium neighborhood, and we
Yeah.
ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like attitude.
Right, yeah, but like, because I get it on like in like rural areas, right, or like if it's just like a big open land, it's like
Sure.
let's build a barn dominium, but like in a suburban neighborhood, like what's the deal?
I don't know. I feel like that would be relatively uncommon to like go so out of the norm and like especially for like a traditional residential neighborhood. If you have a neighborhood, all the same kind of houses or whatever, there's
Yeah.
a possibility that they're like part of like an HOA.
Yeah, you know that HOA like
They ain't approving no
way.
barndominium. Yeah, so it's like I don't know. I feel like it's got to be like unique land construction. Like, but
Yeah.
you own a piece of land, you put this property up, and it's probably not like. I can't imagine that there's like a trailer park for barndominiums.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know if that's necessarily a thing.
Yet.
So now that we've got some of the basic facts, would you consider, Patrick, living in that non-traditional home?
See, I love the inside so much, but I think I would like from the exterior, I would rather like get the full experience, I think, and get like a sort of a cabin look. Like I would do kind of more of a cabin
Sure.
look. I don't think I would want the like metallic outside look. So I'm gonna I would say no. If that's kind of like the essence of it.
Yeah, the price is the biggest factor to me. If it's
Yeah.
like, but then you also have to think about like the cost of one of these houses. Acquiring it might be cheap, but like building one is probably going to be a little bit more expensive.
Mm.
And you have to factor in the cost of the land as well. If you're
Right.
buying like a plot of land and then build this barndominium, it's like, okay, well, I'm spending $200,000 to build a cheaper home with cheaper materials. Why not spend just a little bit more and have something a little bit more? I don't want to say normal. That seems a little weird. I would, because that, you know,
Like neighborhoody or
neighborhood traditional.
yeah, like what
Traditional.
We've really got these barndominiums feelings.
I know. I don't want to offend the people that live in the barndominiums, but the building itself, I don't care about offending the building's
Yeah.
feelings. But you know, we accept all kinds of home dwellers here.
Right. Well, I think for me personally, I want to when I buy a house, I want to live in a neighborhood, you know, more kind of established neighborhood sort of situation. And it sounds like barndominiums aren't really like necessarily as much of a part of that. Also, like in terms of saving money, I think I'd rather just have like a smaller house. That's the house is like kind of the vibe I'm looking for, rather than not even just with barndominiums, but rather than getting a bigger house. That's not what I'm looking for.
Sure.
If that makes sense, just in general.
Yeah, makes sense to me. We're going to get to this here down when we get to financial benefits and challenges, but like durability and sustainability is kind of a concern for me with these kind of things. If you're building a place out of cheaper materials, that's going to mean some other things. So a couple statistics here. Popularity for rural areas. Rural land is often cheaper, which makes large-scale barndominiums possible for families seeking more living space and customization. Homeowners can build barndominiums to their exact specifications, adding lofts, workshops, or even animal stalls. So you could have an animal in your barndominium.
Hey.
Yeah. And then trend growth. So just talking about the numbers here. Since 2020, online searches for barndominiums have increased by 150%.
Wow.
With significant interest in states like Texas, Oklahoma, and Montana. No surprises.
Checks out.
I think that photo above looks totally like just the middle of nowhere, Montana. Or something like that. Yeah. It looks like the Dutton. Like if the Dutton Ranch existed in modern day. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, my cousin is moving to Montana, actually. He's going to do like wildfire forest, firefighter forest for wildfires. Yeah, I don't know. It's very much like not the life I'm living, but like they warned him. They're like, hey, there's not really much of a nightlife out here. He's like perfect. He likes to fish and hunt and whatever. And
so it sounds like a perfect place for.
I'll have to ask my cousin. Shout out to you, Lincoln. If he's interested or has considered barndominiums.
Yeah, you have to report back. Oh, fun fact here. Texas alone accounts for nearly 40% of barndominium builds in the U.S.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean, one state holding 40% of construction.
Yeah, but it's
average,
like a huge state, though.
It's a big state.
As far as like other rural states go, I mean, they've got huge population. I'm not as surprised by that, I feel like.
Sure. All right, well, moving on. If you're not surprised, then...
yeah, lame fact.
Financial benefits and challenges. Affordability. Lower labor and material costs make barndominiums an attractive option for first-time home buyers or those looking to downsize. Durability. Steel frame barndominiums are resistant to pests, fires, and severe weather, reducing long-term maintenance costs. So it's exactly the opposite. I thought I was going to say, like, durability. It sucks.
Yeah, right. No, apparently it's a tank.
It's like the bat tumbler for houses. Yeah. Challenges. Financing hurdles. Many banks are hesitant to finance barndominiums, classifying them as, quote, non-traditional structures, end quote. Buyers often turn to personal loans or specialized lenders. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
If you want to go through the build of a barndominium, your bank may deny you that loan. I don't know.
A non-traditional structure. At least they said non-traditional and very inclusive toward the barndominium.
That is a very inclusive terminology, yes. For the houses. Yeah, that's good. We'll start referring to them as non-traditional structures. Resale uncertainty. While demand is rising, resale values for barndominiums remain unpredictable.
Yeah,
this is an interesting thing here too. It's like you spend all this money, you invest in a property traditional property. You invest a lot of money in that, like you're investing in that property. Like maybe down the road you'll be able to sell it and sell it for a profit if the housing market continues to rise. But with a structure like this, it's so new, it's so wacky. It's like you have no idea what it's going to look like in 5-10 years. Are you going to be able to sell it?
Yeah, but also though, it's like you could be investing in 1979 Apple. Who knows? Like maybe these things will come all the rage in 15 years.
Super appreciate value. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so in conclusion, barndominium trends are reshaping rural housing by offering affordable and customizable living spaces. And they may not be for everyone, but their growing popularity kind of does signal a shift in how Americans view home ownership, prioritizing practicality, space, and creative design. Patrick, do you think it's going to get just if you had to predict right now, popularity up, down, neutral, where are you at?
I'm thinking it's probably going to go down. I sort of see it as more like a transient sort of like craze.
A fad.
I could be wrong. A fad. Thank you for the three-letter
transient.
A transient phase.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree with you. I just don't know. Here's my thing. The aesthetic of these buildings alone I don't know if it's going to stand the test of time in terms of just like visual appeal.
Right.
There's a reason why we've been building the same kind of home for so long, and that structure and those kind of aesthetics, brick, wood, like the traditional looks of a building, like stone, all like the typical architecture. Like, I just think that has stood the test of time.
Right.
Will this aluminum siding barn stand the test of time?
Remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. We'll have to see someday down the road. But that has been real news, and that's it for me. I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. Patrick, you're up next.
Oh, my turn.
Yeah, you're going to talk about some stuff.
Yay. Yeah. What's this one called? Real
Estate Real. It's a new segment.
Yeah.
And our genius writers have come up with this.
I wonder if they did Real Estate Real, because it's REEL for the second real.
Yeah, so real news is funny because it's real news, but it's also real estate news.
Right.
This is funny because it's spelled with 2 E's.
It is funny.
You want to explain why that's funny?
It is. It's like a play on words.
It is play. Why is it a play on words?
Because like they're homophones, right? Or is
right.
that
well, but what's the purpose of the REEL?
To be different than REAL.
Right, but what does it refer to?
Oh. It's because it's about movies and TV.
And why?
Like a film reel.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we got there.
Yeah, it is funny because it is a play on words for about movies and TV. So we're going to break down the location costs and real world real estate behind these fictional homes. And today's episode, we are talking about the show Friends, and we are, of course, going to be talking about Monica and Rachel's apartment from Friends.
Yeah.
The main, like, apartment where they all hang out. I mean, there's Joey and Chandler's apartment, but the one, like, kind of like the main sort of setting.
It's the one everyone thinks about when they think about the show.
Right.
I mean, hey, you've been asking for it, listeners, and you finally got it. You're like, Zach and Patrick, why are they doing a real estate podcast? They clearly care more about movies than they do about real estate. They're like, why don't we have a whole segment where they talk about movies and TV shows? So
that's what we're
you asked, and we deliver. Friends, go ahead.
Dude, I was thinking about this last time I watched Friends. I'm like, no shot that there's an apartment that nice in New York City, like because they're in Greenwich Village, right? Like,
so here's the thing. It's been years since I watched Friends. Growing up, I was much more a Seinfeld fan.
Got it.
So like in my formative years, I would put on Seinfeld, but like Friends was never my favorite thing. I feel like it leaned, not that we have to dive into a dissection of Friends, the show itself, but my problem with Friends was always that it felt more like a dramedy than an actual sitcom, like a com. I felt like the sit was more than the com. Like, it's all this relationship BS and stuff, and I'm like, I don't really care about any of that. I just want to laugh. I want funny situations.
That's fair.
That's why it's like the Chandler storylines were always my favorite. The Chandler and Joey storylines are always my favorite. But it's like everybody else, I'm like...
Yeah, right. But I had
also Phoebe. Love Phoebe.
Phoebe and Chandler I thought were the funniest characters in the show.
Easily.
I did think like Ross, while the most unlikable, I thought he was one of the best like written characters. Like he had the most flaws, and I thought the acting was better than like some of the other actors. You know. That's just my
Interesting.
I think the show has a lot. I'm not like the biggest Friends person, but I like it, and I get the appeal.
Sure. No, I definitely get the appeal. I mean, it's a classic show in terms of like living in New York as a 20-something-year-old and like figuring out life. Like it's that's like a touchstone. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, that's 20-something because they're like basically within our age group, like in that show, and their jobs are what? Rachel's going. What's her job? She like had multiple jobs, kind of like trying to work up in the
Friends wiki
in the fashion world. I think. Well, she was also a barista for a sec.
None of them are like wealthy. Let's put it that way. Like right, like none of them.
Ross and Chandler have like good. Like Ross is like a professor, and Chandler is a I think the joke is like he has.
I'm looking up what the characters did for work, but go ahead and give me the introduction here. Give
so
me
basically, the apartment.
Yeah.
It's in Greenwich Village, New York City, which is a neighborhood in Manhattan. It's a nice neighborhood. I've been there. Actually, I remember I was in Greenwich Village over the summer. While we were there, I asked my girlfriend, I was like, where's the show Friends take place? She's like, oh, right here, like in this neighborhood. So I was like, oh, okay. It's the actual real building. there are exterior shots of it in the show. It's in 90 Bedford Street.
Okay.
On the corner, so I don't think I saw the exact building, but I'm assuming that studio itself, like that's shot in L.A., right? Like the inside of the building.
That was all on the soundstage.
Yeah, right.
Sorry to break the immersion fans.
But yeah, so the apartment was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit with an open kitchen, and that living room is huge. Massive living room. It's got a balcony.
Yeah, the balcony was always my favorite part. I was always like, "That's cool." I was like, I want that balcony.
which is rare for Manhattan apartments.
Yeah.
The space in the apartment is just like flat out unrealistic. I remember staying at one of my buddies who lives in Brooklyn, actually, his apartment, which is a huge apartment for the area, quarter of the size of the apartment there, and had cockroaches and no central air, central heating. Like it was just, which it was like, he's like, trust me, I've got one of the nice ones.
Yeah, right. You want New York lifestyle?
You're gonna have
chill out with the roaches and the rats. You want to have to make friends with those people and just deal with it.
Unless you're in a 90s sitcom show shot in LA.
Yeah, this seems to be a pattern for like sitcoms in the 90s in like or like sitcoms in general. Like another famous one about like being 20-something in New York is How I Met Your Mother, and that apartment is huge.
Arguably even nicer apartment.
They each have their own separate bedroom. They have a full bath, and they have like all this stuff. Well, I'm sure maybe in a future episode we'll dive into the How I Met Your Mother apartment too. But it's like, this seems to be a pattern, is that these places are much bigger than what these people can afford.
Well, one of the things of the show is like, because I think they acknowledge that how unrealistic it is, especially for like people who probably watchers who lived in New York. Like, no way. And the thing that they gave was that Monica inherited the apartment from her late grandmother. So I guess it was like in the family forever, and maybe like at that point in time apartments were bigger, which is like, I mean, smart of them to have like at least baked in
something to write that in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've got their jobs, by the way. You want me to read those off to you real fast?
Oh, yeah.
Rachel Green was a waitress turned fashion executive. I totally forgot about that storyline, that she became a fashion exec. Monica Geller was a chef. Starts the series as a chef. Then she does she's a food critic at the end of the show and a head chef at different restaurants. Phoebe, masseuse. I forgot about that too. And a musician. Joey, actor.
Yep.
So and a struggling actor too. He never does anything until Joey.
Yeah.
So that's a real deep cut sitcom joke out there, by the way, if y'all didn't catch that one. Chandler being IT and advertising copywriter.
Yep.
And then Ross was a paleontologist professor.
Yeah, right.
So none of these people are raking in the amount of money, I think, to be able to.
So
I mean, they are roommates.
They're right. I mean, I think the inheriting the lease from the grandmother is maybe some, but like here it's saying even under rent control, estimates suggest the rent would be around $2,000 per month in the 90s. I was thinking way more than that.
I was thinking way more too.
Way more.
Yeah. Oh, way more.
At the time, the average rent for a similar apartment in Manhattan would have been $3,500 to $5,000 per month. That seems more, in the ballpark. But I 5,000. I was gonna say probably in the 90s, like 5,000.
Now let me ask you: even at the highest level, 5,000, is it worth it for you for rent every month to live above Central Park? Because that to me was always the best part of the Friends apartment, is that when I was like. So they'd end up doing it better. How I Met Your Mother, it's easily better to live above a bar. But in Friends, at least they lived above a coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it looks like a coffee shop's cool. Yep. Would I spend like my entire salary just to do that and not have any money to buy a latte when I want one? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
that's the answer.
But yeah, I guess in the current market, they're saying a similar apartment would rent for $6,000 to $7,500 a month.
Yeesh.
With some luxury apartments in the area exceeding $10,000 per month. So you really have to have like
that's crazy
money.
That is crazy.
So could they afford it? Monica was making between $27,000 and $35,000 per year. Rachel between $15,000 to $20,000 per year when they were both living there. That was at her start as a waitress. So realistically, they would need to spend nearly their entire salaries to afford the rent. I think probably would be even exceed that. And actually, in New York City, it's common for landlords to require the 40 times rent rule, which is insane. Which states that a renter's annual gross income should be about 40 times their monthly rent. Yeah, so meaning they would need to make between $240,000 and $300,000 per year, which obviously they were a combined like 55,000. So yeah, they were like not even close.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is interesting. 40-time rent rule. That might be we might have to write that down for a future rentology or rent
Well,
real news.
I've heard the 3-time rule, which is basically your monthly income should be 3 times the rent that
I've
you
heard
pay.
that.
I've heard it. So I guess 40 times per year. So that would be like 36 times because they're going by annual salary.
Oh,
So
sure.
30 should be 40 instead of 36, basically.
So is your annual salary enough to pay the rent for a full year, basically? It's 40 times.
Wait, 40 times.
Your annual gross income should be 40 times your monthly rent.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So you take your monthly rent, multiply that by 40. Does that match up with the thing?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Seems high.
It does seem high.
Seems
But
high.
That's also, it seems like New York, so.
Start spreading.
The official, here's some fun facts. So Warner Bros.
You said that so. Here's some fun facts.
Warner Bros. Launched a touring exhibit where fans could walk through a replica of Monica's apartment, and I went to that.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yep. When I was
Where,
in,
man?
I did this Inside Hollywood program in college. We were for 3 weeks, and we went to Warner Bros. Like did the touristy stuff at Warner Bros. Yeah, so we got to see like their actual apartment, like what they
Warner
shot.
Brothers in California or
In California.
in California.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This was like until I read this fun fact, I forgot that I did that actually because that was before I like really even watched Friends and stuff. There was like the fountain and stuff too. The fountain that they take the intro.
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Which tickets cost $40 per person, but that I didn't pay for that because I was on that's like a field trip basically, but I paid for it at the beginning, whatever.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those experiences are always cool. Like, I think they did a similar thing for the Seinfeld apartment when they did the Curb reunion, where they had like a replica of Jerry's apartment that you could go and like check out in New York City. So I would do that. That's kind of cool.
I just remember being more excited when I was there because like they had like the actual Maltese Falcon. I don't know if you know that movie. It's like an old noir movie from the 1940s.
I know of it, yeah.
And then I was like, they had the actual Maltese Falcon, like
That's pretty cool.
the little like statue thing. I was like, no way, that's so cool. And everyone
you
else
stole
was like,
it.
what is that? No, I wish.
You didn't try and swipe it?
No, it was behind glass.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was like enamored by that, and everybody else was like, there's a fountain from Friends.
Gotcha.
All right. We're getting the
You're
wrap
like,
up.
screw your Friends fountain. I'm here to look at the Maltese Falcon, baby.
In conclusion, Friends may have set unrealistic real estate expectations for certain folks looking to move to New York City, but it remains a cultural phenomenon nonetheless. Yeah, I wonder how many people like went to New York living on this dream that they could buy an nice apartment as a chef and waiter. And
I think sitcoms, especially sitcoms that takes place in like high expense areas, they've been just setting this expectation for years.
Yeah.
Well, one day we'll talk about the Full House, like the Painted Ladies.
Oh.
They show the inside of the Full House. I'm like, that's a mansion. That would not work in San Francisco. But yeah, it's like the Friends apartment. It's like that's been the running joke forever. It's like, how do these people afford it? But
Yeah.
Thanks for running us through that, Patrick.
Yeah.
That was a really fun segment.
For sure.
Okay. All right, so welcome back to another fun round of listener-submitted real estate questions that have been sent to questions@therentishpod.com. As always, we are here to help, but remember, consult the pros before making any big moves. So let's jump into this week's quirky, thought-provoking, and downright entertaining questions from listeners all across the U.S. Patrick, you want to start or you want me to start? Who talks first?
I can go.
You want to go?
Yeah. I can go.
Hit me.
Question 1, Jordan from Tampa, Florida. I'm thinking about buying my first home, but every time I start looking at listings, I get overwhelmed. What's the best way to start the process without feeling like my brain is about to explode?
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, the filters is my first thing. I don't know, like, if you've been using the filters, you've just been, like, just looking at everything. But, like, I was...
Oh, you mean, like, just generally online? Like...
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, what? Oh, okay, so you mean,
What?
like, if you're on, like, Zillow or
Yeah.
something like that, and it's, like, you want to narrow down your search.
Exactly.
You don't just want to look at everything. You want to find specific things that are fine, too.
Right.
Great.
Thank
Got
you
it.
for adding structure and coherence to what I said.
I was just trying to, like, Well, you like, don't forget the filters. And I was like, the filters?
Yeah,
and then I was like thinking about the listing site.
Right,
so
right.
you're
Zillow,
talking
for
about
example,
these. Yeah.
Like pick out like a listing site or two. When I've looked for apartments in the past, definitely filters like in terms of your price range, your location, and be as specific as possible when you start out, because there's not going to be a ton of options if you like search for exactly what you're looking for. But obviously, when you are super specific, again, there might not be a ton of options. So then from there, you start widening your filter range, widening the location range, that your various like unit feature qualifications and stuff, and so then you can kind of open it up from then. So I think that's probably a helpful tip.
That's a good call out. I would also say like a lot of those websites, Zillow especially. I'm really familiar with Zillow because I've like used it to get like apartments and even like tangentially look at buying a house. You can do like search alerts too. Like a lot of those websites will set up things to be like it'll notify you when something in your area kind of like pops up, or like something for your specifics. That way you're not bombarded with everything and you're just like, oh, well, I'll take a look at the things. I would say not everyone wants to go down this specific path if you want to take matters into your own hands, but getting a real estate agent or someone that is able to like tailor make a list of things that are just specific for you. Like you can tell someone what you're interested in, what you're looking for, and they're able to like kind of do some of the legwork, find those places and bring them to your attention. That might also ease up some of the burden. That way you don't feel like your head's about to explode and you're like not doing most of the work. You can just be like, oh, this guy that I trust, this realtor or whatever, they've sent me this suggestion. I'm going to take a look at it. Maybe I want to go tour it. And then you could just let them know and go through the process.
Also, side note, I know some people just like love looking for homes and apartments and houses and stuff like as a hobby. Like they do it even if they're not looking. And I've got a friend like that, and my stepmom is like that. And so I guarantee if I reached out to my stepmom, I was like, hey, help me, here's what I'm looking for. And she would take the time to do that. I don't know, like, obviously like people have different things, but like, it doesn't hurt to have somebody who knows what you're looking for who can help. Like, because obviously like just searching takes time.
Yeah, for sure. Good call outs there. Question number 2. Mike from Austin, Texas writes in, says, I have a neighbor who constantly parks in my driveway like it's their own personal space. I don't want to start a war, but how do I handle this without things getting weird?
Start parking in their driveway.
I was going to say, I was like, can we give the sarcastic answer first and then give real answers?
That's my real answer.
That's your real answer? So eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, huh? You just park in their spot?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I'd actually do that. I would probably talk to them.
Yeah, like, communication.
Yeah, right.
You're not gonna improve your relationship with your neighbors without like taking that first step. A lot of times people don't want to do that, but you be the bigger person. Walk over there, knock on their door, sock them right in the face when they open. No, I'm just kidding. Open the door and be like, "Hey, man, just talking. I saw that you parked in my space. It's kind of not cool. Like, just letting you know." I feel like a lot of times people will realize the error of their ways if you just communicate them and confront them.
I think it's probably a good idea too. Would be like bring it up and like let's grab let's do a cookout sometime soon. Too at the end of that, so it's not all it's like, oh, you'll want to get to know them as a neighbor. But don't park in my parking spot.
Bring them a 6-pack.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hey, buddy. My local brewery has these beers, and I thought that you would enjoy them. Also, stop parking in my space.
Or you could do like a reserved. You put a reserved parking with like your name.
Put
like,
cones out.
Yeah, right.
Just like line the space up with cones. All right, so now the funny answers. What would you do? What do you want to do? You park in this space?
Park in space. The reserved parking spot.
Key the car. Yeah. Maybe break a window. No, don't take our advice. We're being funny here. This is a comedy podcast, everybody. Maybe smash the window. Smash a headlight. Sugar in the gas tank. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Comedy podcast. No, I think communication is the right answer here. Who else wrote in? I'm done with that one. Who else wrote in?
Pop the tires.
Pop the tires.
Take off the tires and just
dismantle every piece of the car, set it next to the car, and build them a little booklet that looks like Lego build instructions and set it next to the pieces of the car. And to say like 10 and up, ages 10 and up or whatever, and how many pieces. All right, next question.
All right, question 3. Troy from Chicago, Illinois asks, would you rather live in a tiny home with all the modern upgrades or a giant old mansion that might fall apart at any moment? Definitely a tiny home.
Troy, you got to make does Troy have to make this decision, or is he just curious about which one we would pick? Because Troy, I'm sorry if you're in that situation.
Yeah, right. Also, it's a deeply personal question based on your predicament, it sounds like. My answer is tiny home, as I said.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about, I actively don't want a huge house, like more than I can take care of. And if it's falling apart, like it's kind of.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Troy, you gave the clarifier that it might fall apart at any moment. That immediately is like, okay, I don't want to live in a house that I'm worried about the structural integrity, right? Tiny home, we're going to break the fourth wall a little bit. I'm a tiny person. I'm like 5'6" or whatever. I'm maybe on a good day 5'7". And Patrick, but you're taller.
I'm taller, yeah.
So tiny home wouldn't be that problematic for someone my size. Like I'm a shorter dude.
But tiny home, I don't want to like be crouching down all the time.
No.
I don't want to be like Gandalf in the Hobbit house, Hobbit hole.
That's a smart poll. I mean, like the clarifier, all the modern upgrades. It's like, okay, so it's a small house, big whoop.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You have all the accoutrement that you need. You've got a nice bathroom, a nice fridge, like washer and dryer.
And the alternative is you're like the house could come down on you while you're sleeping at night. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
have you ever stayed in a tiny home?
I haven't actually.
Okay. So you can. Red River Gorge has some that are really cool,
Hills
and then
too.
Hocking Hills also has some tiny homes that are really
hoping
cool.
to do a Hocking Hills like tiny home.
Yeah, they're very cool. Cool experiences.
Yeah.
Cool for a weekend. Would I get sick of it living there as my permanent residence? Maybe.
Yeah.
Just because I like being able to like move you to different spots in the house and like
Right.
shift your energy.
Yeah.
I'm working all day in my office. Maybe I want to go to the living room and like unwind. So it's like
Right.
it's different if your whole house is your office, your living room, your bathroom, your bedroom. It's like
And where you want like a Blu-ray collection to be,
sure. Where am I going to put my Criterion collection? All right, that's everything that we have for the listener questions today. Thank you all for listening and joining us on another very fun episode of the Rentish podcast. Hey, Pat, I think we pulled it together. Energy was here. Now I'd say it's like here. It's like slightly
for the people who can't see his hand as he's saying that, listening to the podcast, by here he meant here.
Yeah,
and by
exactly.
here he meant here.
Yep, that was a perfect illustration. Keep following the show, The Rentish Pod. Questions at therentishpod.com. You can please follow and subscribe and like and review and rate and do whatever you need to do to tell us that you love us. And we would appreciate that. And thank you all for being listeners of the show. I've been Zach. That's been Pat. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, listeners. If managing property finances feels like a full-time job, it's time to check out Ledger.ai. Ledger.ai makes property accounting simple by automating your finances, tracking expenses, and keeping you organized all without the stress. It's like having an accounting pro in your corner so you can focus on growing your portfolio. Visit ledger.ai/podcast today and let them handle the heavy lifting. That's ledgre.ai/podcast.